we have a special guest to talk about an uncomfortable situation when it comes to incontinence. Stick around on the next episode of Senior Care Made Simple.
Welcome to Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, your guide to navigating home health care with confidence. Hosted by Andrea Albertini, founder and CEO of Horizon Care Services, an industry leader in private duty home care in South Florida. To learn more, visit horizoncareservices.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Andrea Albertini, your host for Senior Care Made Simple podcast. And I am here today with my co-host, Doris Muscarella. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Well, hello there. We got an interesting topic today.
We definitely do. We have some really special guests today. And as a lot of you people know, we want to be able to bring information, resources in terms of the healthcare arena. And we are here to share anything and everything that we learn to be able to help our local seniors or to help anybody actually, because anybody can have anything at any point in time in many ways when it comes to our healthcare industry. So we have two amazing ladies, Dina and Susie. They have an incredible podcast and it's called Continence Chat podcast. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks for coming and joining us. We are very excited to hear all the things that you want to share with us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Andrea and Doris. We appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. And I would say it's been maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, Deanna and myself, we were having a conversation about incontinence. And we realized it is a very touchy subject. And people are extremely uncomfortable chatting about that issue, especially if it's impacting their personal life or someone that they love. And so we thought, hey, why not create a podcast where we can make uncomfortable conversations more comfortable? We can discuss the challenges, we can discuss the solutions, and we could become a resource and introduce our audience to different medical professionals and people in all sorts of industries that could maybe shed some light on this topic and make it not be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. I think we share some common ground with your podcast in that Susie touched on it, serving as a resource. So what initially started as a full-blown podcast all about incontinence subject matter has really pivoted over the last year and a half to expand into a resource site for healthcare professionals and adult children that are helping moms and dads who have incontinence. Or it could even be we did a male podcast, an all-male panel. Males have difficulty sometimes sharing, even more so than females. So it's just evolved over time. And like you, sometimes you don't know who you touch. But all of a sudden, right, you probably get an email or a phone call or a conversation that says, oh, I watched that and that helped me with this. And so that is for us and our team, the most rewarding part of that podcast is just something that's simple, quick, but trying to make a difference out there.
No, absolutely. And we also touch in a lot of different topics that is uncomfortable to talk about. And we're trying to get people to be more, understanding that this is the life process, right? It's aging process. It's healthcare. It's our body, and we need to be able to talk about it and face it and get the help that we need with all the resources that are available out there.
So I have a question for you. A little bit about your background. What made you get into this arena, this field? My background was in home modifications. And so I worked with a company that installed in-home elevators, stair lifts. They remodeled bathrooms to accommodate those that were perhaps the victim of a spinal cord injury. We worked with a lot of veterans. We worked with people in wheelchairs, and we were able to give them their life back. Remodeling a kitchen where perhaps the counters or the stove and oven are going down to a level where someone in a wheelchair can cook, and then it could go up again. Maybe their spouse or other family members could also cook. So I had passion and still have passion for people that are struggling. I like to look at things from different perspectives, and it was interesting working with the disabled community. They did not consider themselves disabled. They would say, I'm not disabled, I'm different. And yeah, and it helped me see, hey, we need to look at things from their perspective. And coming into partnership with Seni, who manufactures high performing incontinence products, there was another opportunity because we may think, oh, we can just chat about this topic, but what is going on from their perspective? Maybe they're feeling humiliated. Maybe they're embarrassed. Maybe they don't want to walk into a medical store and have everybody in the store hear that they're shopping for briefs or pull ups. And I think oftentimes um, we don't realize how many people are struggling with this. If you were looking at America, it's about 33 million people are struggling with incontinence, and globally, it's between 200 and 400 million. So it's it's a challenge for many, many people, and I enjoy helping people, and I'm glad to be participating with Seni in this endeavor.
That's very nice. We are all about giving back also and helping people and assisting. So we speak the same language when it comes to that. Dina, how about you?
Yeah. So I'll just say, as I was listening to Susie and my mind was going to everything that she is talking about, it's a mission-driven company. So I always say our briefs, our pull-ups, our line of Seni products are really conduits to bigger outcomes. And it's that bigger outcome that our team, our entire team, is on this quest to really change mindset that prior to Seni arriving here in the USA, we're based out of Poland. We're a large global company, but we're fairly still new to the incontinence category here in the USA. But it's mission driven, and it's almost like climbing a mountain to say hello, hello. Let's shift the mindset from a disposable commodity to really a critical component of the continuum of care when someone has incontinence. So it's that mission that's the driving force. I had been looking for a new role. My background is in radiology prior to Seni for most of my career, but the people are contagious in a positive way, positively contagious. I went on an interview with who is our COO of Seni here in the USA and one of our other teammates, and they light up when they speak about changing outcomes. So they're not so much speaking about the features of the product, they're speaking about the outcomes. And that tends to light me up. And then hopefully that lights others up. And we're just growing and growing here in the US as we continue to change mindset, change culture to say, this stuff's important. It's just not going to a store and picking out a package with a price tag on a shelf. It's the root of so many things, and so many things can be fabulous, right? You could have mom or dad that maybe would feel, I'm staying inside today because there's risk that if I go out, I may have an accident, and that could get ugly quick. Well, when someone's wearing a brief or a pull-up that works really well, that outcome changes to, I'm confident, I have dignity, and I'm going out, I'm getting on that boat, or I'm going to that restaurant, or I'm going to that play. That's the root of it, is changing outcomes. So it's a very exciting company to be a part of. So I know our entire team is very, very grateful. to be on it.
So tell us about in details about the product and how they can use it and how they can make it better, because it is important that no matter no matter what, we have a quality of life. People who are incontinent have a quality of life. Life doesn't stop and restrain you for staying at home just because you're incontinent.
Folks just have to understand through education about features of the products lead to better outcomes. So when shopping for a brief or a pull-up or a pad or any type of incontinence product, people should be looking for a feature that product line is fully breathable. When the vapors of the skin can breathe, we should not be having skin breakdown, which can also be called pressure sores or pressure injury. And we fix a lot of skin breakdown that is due to urinary incontinence. When you have a product that's fully breathable, that risk goes away. So I always say look on a package for 100% breathability, not breathable on the wings, partial breathability. You want to make sure that a product is fully breathable. And then even things like inner leak guards. Inner leak guards, right, just like they sound, they prevent leaks. Well, how does that ripple out into a better outcome? If I can sleep through the night because everything's contained, if I urinate, I'm dry, I'm comfortable, I sleep. If I have a leak, my sheets are wet, my garments are wet. Now what happens? I may get up. If I'm groggy, I may get up and I may fall. If I fall, I may end up at the ER and I can have ugly outcomes from there. So you want a product that's fully breathable, has inner leak guards. Our team is out in the field when we're speaking with all types of people, whether it's the consumer or whether it's nursing teams, but we're lifting up the core of our product, which is called an acquisition distribution layer. And you want to make sure that that does not have a plastic backing. So any ADLs that have a plastic backing, you run the risk of UTIs. And you say, wait a minute, how do you run the risk of a UTI? Well, you could have microscopic pooling that plastic is collecting, and that goes up. Women have shorter urethras. You can have bacteria that goes up into the bladder, and a person may get a UTI and they go to the doctor. We love doctors, but they haven't been educated as much about incontinence products. They write a script. If that person comes back and they sit back in that same product, they get another UTI, and we can go round robin. So we say full breathability, inner leak guards, no plastic backing on an ADL, soft materials for comfort. Someone who is out in public has their faculties. They don't want people knowing that they have a product on. So you don't want squeaking or other noises. So when you have soft, comfortable materials, you reduce that risk. And then sizing is important. We'll get calls that people will say, gee, my mom or dad or myself, we have I'm 6'3" and I weigh 220 pounds. What size do I need? We say, well, can we get you waist and hip size, please? That's where you want to focus in. Waist and hips is very important. And then all types of absorbency levels. We have everything from light to moderate to heavy to severe, but people should be looking at absorbency levels. Not everybody needs a product that is the heaviest of the heaviest absorbency levels. Some people might have light bladder leaks and they might just need a pad. So the different features make a difference. And then understanding too how to perhaps improve incontinence. We're big on let's improve what we can first. And then if we can improve it, okay, now let's look for a really good product. But people understanding that Kegel exercises can be done at any age, any place, right? But that's really important to help strengthen the pelvic floor. Things like, gosh, one of the doctors that we work with shared this, and it sticks with me. It sticks with me. If you have husband and wife team that have slept in the same bed for 50 years, and they have a bathroom maybe in their bedroom or outside down the hall. But if the person who has now become incontinent sleeps the farther side away from the restroom, and maybe their legs just don't work as well as they did, why not think about changing spots, moving over to that other side? It's a simple little thing. It doesn't cost anything, but it may help that person get to the bathroom quicker. So that's one way to improve incontinence. Looking at meds, right? Side effects, looking at when fluid intake happens. And we always say that does not mean stop with fluid intake. We don't want people being dehydrated, but all these little types of tricks of the trade, so to speak, that can help people improve incontinence. That's a good place to focus in on. So, yeah, those are a few things. Susie, what did I leave out that's important for people when they're looking at a product?
I just thought of two things. Number one is a wetness indicator. So on the outside portion of the brief, say the person has a caregiver, instead of the routine of waking them up and checking, they could just look on the outside, and with the Seni products, it's showing an indicator of how much fluid is in that brief. So they may glance and go, oh, they're only about 30% full. With, say, the Quattro product, they can go 8 hours and sleep through the night and be able to wake up fresh and dry. That's unheard of, especially if you talk to somebody that has had a partner, husband-wife team, and they know that they're waking up every morning in wet sheets and they're not even the person that's incontinent. That could be a real game changer for someone. So the wetness indicator for caregiving, and also the tabs. If they're in a brief that the tabs are connecting, and maybe there's a caregiver and they put it on a little bit too tight, and the person can say, hey, this is too tight. Can you make an adjustment? The tabs should be able to be pulled off and readjusted. Oftentimes, with other brands, you might pull it off and now you've ripped a hole in the product. You haven't even used it and you have to throw it away and start all over. So those would be two features also that can reap some great benefits.
It's very interesting. One of the reasons I created this podcast, and I'm sure that that's why you did yours, is to provide everyone with those kind of information. Being in the industry for the last 40 years of my life, I have never heard of such a thing. Most of the time, we order briefs and for our patients, and here a lot, and we have and it's very interesting because I never thought about those little details. And one of the things that we do here, our Horizon Care Services, being a full service senior services in Palm Beach County, we are able to, I'm able with my team to be able to learn as much as we can and continuing to provide update and more care for our local seniors as much as we can. And that's why our company is a 5-star agency. And, and because we are so integrated with so many wonderful things, and to know that, I never thought about this, right? I mean, I'm out on the road, I'm doing marketing, I'm doing events, I'm meeting patients, I'm meeting doctors, I'm in a hospital with case managers, and I never thought about all those little details, when it comes to making sure you choose the right briefs for your loved ones or for yourself. You never thought about those little details. So this is very interesting because now I'm going to be able to share that with my referral sources and also with my staff, and my caregivers. It's a whole education to my caregivers, to be able to know what kind of brief and what to look for. Because as an elderly person, unfortunately, they tend to get UTIs a lot, and they're very silent on an elderly person. And it can be very dangerous, and it can come on the Fridays, and lead to other problems. So this is really interesting. What do you think, Doris?
Oh, absolutely. I did want to ask you. You said there are exercises to prevent incontinence. Where can we get these resources? Because we would like to provide our listeners with resources. Is there a website or anything that you could recommend?
Yeah. So we have a lot of good information on our website. But there are also, I can send some tools that we have for different things and a couple of websites. There are actually lots of associations out there, the National Association for Incontinence. There are several links that I can give you that could serve as resources. And then we've got some, handouts that are educational in nature also that can be helpful. So yeah, happy to share that information. And it's all about, at the end of the day, doing everything possible to reduce the risk. I always say reduce the risk is
Correct.
key, right? Reduce the
Exactly.
risk
Yeah.
of different things. And you brought up a good point too, Andrea, that when I look at and learn more about the services that you provide, which kudos, because you're all encompassing, right? It's not just home care. It's not just you've got. I know we've talked about your mobile primary care, and when I look at your website and podcast, so you're all encompassing. But I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. All the services that you provide and offer are meant to keep older adults in their homes, which to me is what it's all about, right? Everybody wants to stay at home as long as possible. And so this little tiny component of understanding continence care, right? Or incontinence solutions, however we want to word it, is a small component, but it's such a big component. One little thing helps. I know in the in different webinars that we've gone to and seminars and this and that, the number one reason why males will look at transitioning their spouses into a senior living community. And there are great senior living communities out there. I always say again, if you can stay home, great. If you can't, and you know how to choose a really good one, then choose a really good one that can help your loved one. But the number one reason is due to incontinence. And a lot of people don't know that. But that's the number one reason. They just say, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to change the sheets. I can't do it. And I think to myself, well, maybe they can do it longer if there's less to do. If there are less sheets to change, right? Because their spouse. And so it's just kind of interesting stuff.
And that's a very good thought that you just said. And it's one of the things that maybe we should talk about it next time we talk about assisted living placement and the difference and things like that. Because once in a while we'll talk about, the changes that's happening in assisted living. So we should make a topic out of that. But that's a very good one, because to me is we also have, and being a full service, Horizon as you saw, is a full service senior services, right? So we're very different company than anybody else out there. So one of the things that we looked at it is when someone is looking for assisted living, they think that everything will be covered, right? But the other thing is not everybody will do well. You need to have somebody that is personable, that likes to have activities, and it's a busybody. Somebody who was a very private person and a quiet person, it's not the right place for you. So yes, if you can stay home, stay home. And if the case is because of the problem that you don't want to be changing your sheets, because it's an incontinent issue, using your products, that can fix the problem.
Correct. It can certainly contribute. Many factors come into play with, as you know, right, with someone aging in place at home. But all day long, if a person is incontinent, it is a factor that can be positive or negative, and a product can come into play. creating a positive impact for sure.
I think there's some misconceptions out there too regarding incontinence. A lot of people that I talk to out in the field think it's an issue only for older adults.
I was going
And
to
when
ask
they-
you about that. Yes.
And they also tend to think once someone has incontinence as a challenge that it's forever. And neither of those things are true for everyone. So incontinence could be a challenge for children. It could be a young man that has gone through some type of surgery, and it could be the result of the surgery. And perhaps it's a challenge for a segment of time, but not forever. So people get nervous about that and they think, oh my goodness, when we all hit a certain age, we're all going to be incontinent. Not true. Sometimes women after childbirth can have a season of incontinence or going through menopause, gentlemen that have prostate surgery. There are some things people can look at as far as lifestyle changes that could be helpful. And number one is looking at the medications, making sure their doctors are speaking with one another. Maybe some changes could take place that would eliminate the incontinence challenges, or looking at how much caffeine they're drinking through the day. That could be a trigger for incontinence. Anxiety. Maybe they're nervous about, I don't know, going to a doctor appointment and all of a sudden they have incontinence issues because of that anxiety. Carbonated drinks is another one to look at. And, there's a thinking out there. Yes, we want to drink water through the day, but maybe once it hits 6:00 p.m., we only sip a little bit after 6. Because if we're continuing to fill our bladder into the evening, we go to bed and then, boom, we've got to get up and go to the bathroom over and over again. So those could be little tweaks that could be, changes made very easily that could bring some great benefits for the individual that's struggling.
Well, ladies, it was a pleasure having you here and sharing such important information. And that's the things that we need to continue to do as much as we can to keep improving our care and improving the lives of all of us. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Doris. Thank you, Susie.
you.
Thank you, Dina. And stay tuned, please, for the next episode of Senior Care Made Simple podcast. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, has been brought to you by Horizon Care Services, your private duty choice in home care in South Florida. For more information on acquiring home care assistance, visit horizoncareservices.com.